This new Álvaro Arbeloa Real Madrid system is making Madrid look unplayable again. And what's frightening is how quickly it's happened. 5 straight La Liga victories since he took charge. A 6-1 Champions League demolition that sent a message across Europe. A tense Bernabeu that now feels alive again. And a squad that suddenly looks connected.
No, we should be talking about Vinny Jr.'s magnificent goal. Chops in from the left-hand side onto his favoured right foot, puts it into the far corner.
Because just months ago, this team felt fractured. Kylian Mbappé was producing, but often in isolation. Vinícius Jr. looked restrained, far from his explosive best. Trent Alexander-Arnold's role felt uncertain, and the collective structure lacked rhythm, clarity, and emotional balance. Then Arbeloa stepped in, and instead of overcomplicating Madrid, he simplified them. He restored Valverde to midfield control. He rebuilt the right side functionality around Trent's distribution. He brought Vinícius and Mbappé closer in attacking zones. And most importantly, he stabilized the emotional core of the squad. Now, Madrid attack faster, defend calmer, transition cleaner, and play with a freedom that feels dangerous. You saw the league momentum build with 5 straight wins, and you saw their mentality tested in the chaos of Benfica, where Madrid didn't just play football, they showed class and resilience.
Little bit of magic that we needed in that game, and he's got that in abundance.
So in this breakdown, we're going deep into the collapse of the Alonso project, the gamble that promoted Arbeloa, the tactical switches reshaping Madrid's structure, and the subtle adjustments turning individual stars into a collective machine again. This is exactly how Arbeloa stabilized Madrid, simplified their football, and accidentally built a system that might make them one of the most dangerous teams in Europe again. Real Madrid didn't sack Xabi Alonso because the season was lost. They did it because the season was starting to feel uncontrolled. On paper, Madrid were still competitive, the kind of competitive that usually buys time at most clubs. When Alonso departed in mid-January 2026, Madrid was second in La Liga, just 4 points off Barcelona at the halfway stage. But anyone watching week to week could feel the contradiction. Madrid's biggest problem wasn't the table, it was the rhythm. The football kept oscillating between flashes of brilliance and long stretches of disjointed possession. The team didn't consistently look like it knew which version of itself was supposed to show up. Were they a high-control side that suffocates games, or a transition monster that lives off chaos? That identity uncertainty is how pressure starts at Madrid. Because when the football loses its Madridness, the Bernabeu doesn't just get nervous, it turns judgmental. And as the scrutiny rose, the emotional temperature rose with it. By late November 2025, Alonso was already publicly addressing rumors of unrest and insisting the dressing room was solid after a difficult run of results. That matters because Madrid don't do public reassurance unless the noise has become loud enough to shape the week. So even while results kept them alive in the league, the feeling around the squad was fragile. Not broken, but brittle, one bad night away from cracking. That bad night arrived in Saudi Arabia. The Spanish Super Cup final loss to Barcelona 3-2 wasn't just another defeat, it became a symbolic moment. Madrid looked like a team with elite players, but without a unified pulse. This is why finals hurt more than league slip-ups. They compress everything into one narrative. And that night, the narrative wasn't Madrid were unlucky. It was Madrid don't look sure of themselves. Match coverage described the aftermath in stark terms. Alonso was out after just 7 months, and the departure came with Madrid still competitive in the league but clearly under pressure. Other reports framed the Super Cup defeat as the final straw in a period where poor results and internal friction reports had been swirling. Here's the key. At Real Madrid, tension doesn't need to become a civil war to be fatal. Sometimes it's smaller but more poisonous. Uncertainty, role ambiguity, and the sense that the system is asking players to be something they don't feel like. During Alonso's spell, reports and commentary repeatedly returned to the same cluster of issues: control versus expression. Madrid's culture is built around elite individuals deciding big moments. Overstructuring them can create resistance. And there were unrest rumors. Alonso had to deny dressing room rift talk publicly, which is usually a sign the story has already entered the squad ecosystem. And within that environment, the integration questions became gasoline on the fire. Trent Alexander-Arnold arrived with superstar expectations. Madrid confirmed his signing officially in June 2025, but the fit under Alonso was debated in the media and around the squad. Madrid had signed him to be a game-shaping right-sided creator. If he isn't clearly trusted or clearly protected, Madrid, the whole idea looks unsettled. Then there's Arda Güler, exactly the kind of player who needs an ecosystem. Clear zones, predictable relationships, defined entry points into games. When the team's attacking structure is unstable, a talent like that can drift to the margins. The point isn't to claim every private detail inside the dressing room. The point is this: Madrid stopped feeling emotionally synchronized, and once that happens, the football stops feeling automatic. This is where Mbappé becomes the most revealing symbol of Alonso's Madrid, because even when Mbappé was producing, the overall attack could still feel like individual solutions stitched onto an uncertain framework. Someone will save us football, and Madrid fans can tolerate that in short bursts. They cannot tolerate it as an identity. So you get the strangest kind of crisis, a team that's still alive in competitions, still close in the league, but increasingly looks like it's operating on separate wavelengths. That's why the collapse wasn't about points. It was about belief. Belief in the system, belief in each other, belief that the team was moving in one direction. If Alonso represented a project, Arbeloa represented a reset. On January 12, 2026, Real Madrid announced Álvaro Arbeloa as the new first-team coach. This was a direct internal promotion. Arbeloa had been coaching Castilla, and his coaching path had been built inside the club structure. And this is the part that makes it feel like a real Madrid gamble. No long transition, no safe celebrity appointment to calm headlines, no gradual easing in. Just hand the keys to a club legend and bet the dressing room responds. Some outlets framed it as an interim situation. Others emphasized the immediacy and authority of the move. Either way, Madrid made the choice that mattered. They turned inward. This is classic Florentino Perez logic, not always consistent, but always institutional. When Madrid feel like they're losing their cultural rhythm, the club often returns to Madrid DNA as a stabilizing force. People who understand the pressure, the politics, and the unspoken rules. And Arbeloa is that, in a way, an external manager can't be, because he doesn't need to learn the Bernabeu ecosystem. He already knows what it does to a squad. This is what the promotion really signals. Madrid were betting that the first fix needed to be emotional repair, not tactical revolution. Not bring a genius to redesign everything, but restore clarity, restore roles, restore cohesion, then let quality breathe again. That is why the Alonso project collapsed, and why the Arbeloa appointment made sense in Madrid logic. Because Madrid didn't collapse in results. They collapsed in identity. And Florentino responded with the most Madrid solution possible: a Madrid man, to make Madrid feel like Madrid again. Álvaro Arbeloa didn't walk into the Bernabeu needing to learn Real Madrid. He walked in already fluent. At this club, authority isn't just about a resume. It's about whether the room believes you can handle the weight. Arbeloa can, because he's already carried it. Real Madrid's own club history lists 238 competitive appearances for Arbeloa in white. And he wasn't a passenger in a quiet era. He was part of the group that delivered La Decima in 2013/14, and he collected major trophies across the club's peak Champions League years. That matters because it changes the dynamic instantly. In a dressing room full of global superstars, Arbeloa doesn't enter as the new guy. He enters as one of them, with the institutional scars to prove it. Madrid pressure isn't linear, it's cyclical. One bad night becomes a referendum, one final becomes a crisis, one wobble becomes the end of the project. Arbeloa has lived that loop for years, and you could see how quickly that experience became useful the moment he took over. His first league win came inside a hostile Bernabeu, with reports describing the crowd as furious and the club as crisis hit. That isn't a normal new manager bounce environment. That's Madrid at its harshest, and Arbeloa managed to steady the game, win 2-0 and start the reset. Here's the part people miss. Arbeloa's style isn't pulled from theory. It's stitched together from Madrid's most influential modern coaches he lived under. Arbeloa's Madrid playing years from 2009 to 2016 overlapped Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, Rafa Benitez, and Zinedine Zidane, meaning he absorbed Madrid's last decade of elite leadership models from inside the squad. So in practice, you can read his early Madrid coaching like a composite. Mourinho's psychological edge. Protect your leaders. Don't let the opponent control the emotional story. Make the team feel hard to play against. Benitez's defensive discipline, distance control, rest defense, structure that prevents chaos games. Ancelotti's calm authority, stabilize the room first, keep roles simple enough that confidence returns. Zidane's aura and trust, empower stars to decide matches without chaining them to rigid instructions. Arbeloa isn't a tactical inventor arriving with a new religion. He's a Madrid product applying Madrid's best instincts. The best way to understand Arbeloa's Madrid is this. He didn't start by adding systems. He started by removing confusion. Match to match, the visible shift is the same. Less hesitancy, fewer stuck attacks, and clearer patterns to escape pressure. Tactical analysis describe Madrid's new build-up sequence as up, back, and through. A repeatable method to bypass presses using short progression, reset passes, and then a third-man punch through pressure lines. That's not just pretty football, it's anti-chaos football. And the clearest manager intent came with Valverde restored to midfield. Arbeloa has explicitly talked about Valverde playing in midfield as the place he's happiest and most effective. Tactically, that does three critical things. Energy recycling. Valverde becomes the high-output connector who keeps Madrid's tempo alive. Counter-protection. When fullbacks or midfielders step high, Valverde's recovery speed patches the dangerous spaces. Vertical carrying. He turns a regain into territory fast. The modern Madrid midfield became about complementary functions. Bellingham as the advanced connector and late box threat, Valverde as the engine and coverage layer, and a rotating deeper controller to manage circulation and protect rest defense. You saw the output in the Monaco 6-1. Bellingham scores, Vinícius scores, the pressure breaks, and suddenly Madrid looked like a coordinated attack rather than isolated brilliance. Trent Alexander-Arnold at Madrid only works if two things are true. His passing becomes a consistent attacking lever, and the team behind him is structured enough that his aggression doesn't become a counter-attack trap. The issue under Alonso wasn't whether Trent is elite. The issue was whether Madrid's structure clearly declared what he was supposed to be: classic fullback, inverted playmaker, hybrid midfielder, or rotation piece. When the role feels unsettled, it affects the whole right side spacing and timing. In Arbeloa's build-up, Trent's value became obvious. He is the tempo switch. The ball moves quicker and the through pass arrives earlier. And Valverde's midfield positioning gives Trent a safety net. When Trent steps high or delivers early, Valverde can cover the right half space and prevent the opponent's counter route from becoming a straight line. Against Real Sociedad in the 4-1 win, Trent returned to the starting 11 and immediately produced an early assist-type delivery that led to Madrid's opener, with Vinícius later sealing the win via 2 penalties. And in the Benfica 1-0 away win on February 17th, 2026, live coverage described Madrid's first half control featuring incisive passing, with Trent specifically mentioned in the match narrative. That's the transformation. Trent goes from "how do we fit him" to "this is how we hurt you." Arbeloa's Madrid are more vertical, faster transitions, less recycling hesitation, more direct access to the front line earlier. Vinícius scored twice via penalties in the Sociedad win. Then came the Benfica away match on February 17th, and this became more than just a result. The trauma had happened weeks earlier. Benfica 4-2 Real Madrid on January 28th, 2026, including an extraordinary late goalkeeper goal that became a "how did that happen" Madrid moment. The response? Benfica 0-1 Real Madrid on February 17th. Vinícius scored the winner.
Lo va aguantando Delic, le pegó Vini! ¡Claro que sí! Vini!
Then the match was halted after he reported racist abuse, high emotion, long stoppage, and Madrid held their nerve. That's the point. They didn't just win a match. They survived a narrative storm. Together, Arbeloa's Madrid are building a system where the same patterns show up in different games, against different opponents, under different pressures, and that's what unplayable actually means. Arbeloa keeps deflecting the obsession with formations, stressing values and execution over diagrams. What we're really seeing is a flexible base, often reading like a 4-3-3 in possession, that can morph into different pressing looks, including a 4-4-2 diamond at times, but always with the same purpose: win territory fast, protect transitions, and feed the stars early. And the key is this: Arbeloa isn't perfecting one rigid system. He's tuning behaviors until the machine stops leaking. Madrid's biggest difference under Arbeloa is how quickly they compress the pitch after losing the ball, not just pressing, but closing distances, so counters don't don't become foot races. That's why Valverde in midfield matters. He's the accelerator and the emergency brake in the same body. You see the results in games where Madrid win without looking frantic. The Levante 2-0 is the early example. Hostile atmosphere, tense game state, and yet Madrid keep control, take the lead through Mbappé, then kill it with a set-play header from Asensio. Arbeloa's attack doesn't just use width. It engineers isolation lanes, getting a winger 1 versus 1, not by dribbling into traffic, but by moving defenders away first. That's where the build-up pattern described as up, back and through becomes crucial. Lure pressure, reset, then pierce the next line with a third-man action. Against man-oriented presses, that sequence is basically a cheat code, and Madrid are starting to weaponize the Trent switch to Vinícius funnel. Against Real Sociedad in the 4-1 win, reports noted that Gonzalo Garcia scored in the 5th minute from a Trent Alexander-Arnold cross, with Mbappé injured and absent, and Madrid still looked dominant. That's not just an assist, it's a clue. The right side is now designed to deliver early, not after 40 seconds of recycling. And once Trent becomes the early switch threat, the left side changes automatically. Defenses can't overload Vinícius as freely because the ball can arrive from the opposite side before the block is set. When Madrid play more vertical, Bellingham's role becomes deadlier because he's arriving into a box that's already destabilized. In the Sociedad game, Valverde's goal came from the edge of the box, and Madrid's scoring spread signaled that this isn't just star dependency. If the wingers and 9 threaten the last line early, the midfield runners get cleaner arrival windows. The scariest version of Mbappé at Madrid isn't when he stays wide. It's when he attacks the channel between fullback and centre-back. The half-space run that forces the entire backline to turn and sprint. Arbeloa's quicker progression means Mbappé can run earlier with fewer wait touches. And even when Mbappé was missing against Sociedad through injury, Madrid didn't lose their teeth, which suggests the pattern is becoming the attacker, not just the player. Gula's growth is showing up in the details: corners, second balls, and the calm to deliver in tight game states. Levante is the clean proof. Gula swings the corner, Asensio heads in, a goal that turns a tense match into a managed win. That's what maturity looks like in a title race. Not always Hollywood passes, sometimes just executing the decisive ball at the decisive moment. Arbeloa's Madrid need balance. If the right side becomes a creative launchpad, the left side needs a fullback who can defend space, progress the ball, and still threaten when required. Match coverage described Alvaro Carreras' moment of brilliance as the breakthrough in a 2-0 win over Valencia that kept title pressure on. And tactical analysis explicitly frames Carreras as now the established left-back under Arbeloa, with role clarity improving. So Madrid's fullback story becomes asymmetric in a good way. Right side, Trent as the distributor and accelerator. Left side, Carreras as the carrier and keeper of defensive balance. None of this vertical aggression works unless you have a goalkeeper who can keep you alive in the early storm. Against Benfica on February 17th, 2026, reports describe Benfica starting strongly and Courtois producing important moments before Madrid seize control. That's not a footnote. It's tactical permission. If your keeper gives you stability during the opponent's best 5 minutes, your system survives long enough to impose itself. That is elite football, not playing pretty, playing controlled while the environment tries to destabilize you. The scary part is that this doesn't look like a short-term bounce. It looks like a platform. Gula already has decisive actions moments in tense games, like the Levante corner assist, and the more repeatable the system becomes, the easier it is to insert young talent without breaking the structure. We've already seen Arbeloa experiment with different pressing shapes and different build-up solutions depending on opponent pressure. That suggests a coach building a toolkit, not a single trick. Champions League ties punish emotional instability. Benfica turned into a psychological storm, and Madrid still executed, still defended, still left with an advantage. And this is the biggest scaler of all. If the group can stay connected through chaos, then the unplayable version becomes sustainable because it survives bad nights. Real Madrid didn't hire Álvaro Arbeloa to reinvent the wheel. They hired him to remind the wheel how to spin. Because the problem in January wasn't that Madrid lacked talent, it was that the talent had stopped feeling like a team. The football oscillated, the roles felt unclear, the rhythm was brittle, And at Real Madrid, that kind of uncertainty becomes toxic faster than anywhere else. So Florentino Perez made the most Madrid decision possible. He turned inward. No celebrity appointment, no external savior, just a Madrid man who already understood the pressure, the politics, and the unspoken rules. And within weeks, the transformation wasn't just visible, it was measurable. So here's the question that should hang over the rest of La Liga and the Champions League and anyone still chasing Madrid. If this is Arbeloa's Madrid after just weeks, 5 straight wins, swagger restored, patterns sharpening, and the room believing again, what does this look like when the system is fully automated? Because right now Madrid aren't just winning, they're learning how to win without needing everything to be perfect. And that version of Real Madrid, that's the one nobody wants to face in April.